Alright guys, today we're doing a job I've been dreading. We are changing the rear differential cable for my Pioneer 1000. This is the cable that gives you turf mode. Hooks up back here to this crazy mechanism. Mine's pretty nasty. And then it comes underneath the floor up to here. And it goes to this crazy mechanism in here. It's actually this cable right here. There's 3 cables in here. 1 front locker, 2 four-wheel drive right here. And this is your rear locker cable. As you can see, not a lot of room to work in here, but it's doable. I think I can change it without pulling the dash. On the older Pioneers, it's a different system. The little P1000s, it's a real pain in the ass. I'm gonna try this a little easier. So first thing to do is disconnect the rear cable, take off the adjuster nut, and take off this clip. Once you get that off, you can take the cable and pull it back. Now you gotta grab that spring off there. Your new cable will not come with a new spring. Don't lose that spring. Once you get your cable up to here, you can tape your new cable through it so that we can do a kind of a snake method and use the old cable to snake the new cable in. It's not going to be that easy because this is kind of a big thing to pull through. So you're going to have to work it along the way. In order to do that, pull the seat, pull the center cover. That'll get you some access right there. That's the same cable. But yeah, so I'm going to tape it up with electrical tape, tape them side by side and start snaking it through. And I'll give you guys some pointers along the way. You really don't need turf mode. A lot of people don't. A lot of people just put a zip tie back here. That's what I did on Sid's 8-seater at Boggs and Boulder. However, I like to drive around my yard and not tear stuff up. I also do a lot of pavement, and turf mode saves tires on pavement. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it working. This cable from Honda was only like 20 bucks, so it's a super cheap thing to maintain. The reason mine failed was because these little rubber boots came off and the cable got full of mud. So be careful with those little rubber boots. It'll help the cable last longer. So it actually snaked through fairly easy. So you can see here's the new cable, here's the old cable. To disconnect the cable from this side is a little tricky. This is the plate that holds the back end of the cable. The nuts go there. You see how this can pivot? This is because this thing has a mechanism for when you throw it in park, it locks the rear differential. That's what that mechanism right there is. When you go to park, it automatically locks itself in order to not have the vehicle roll away. I've never really been a big fan of that. I think it's kind of safety-y and stupid. So, you know, I like to delete things, and I'll probably delete that feature because then it means there's only one cable attached to your shifter. Shifts a little better, and yeah. In order to delete that though, you need to mount this at the proper place because this is what holds the back end of the cable. So once you get that floppy, you can take the cable and it comes up to here. It's really hard to see. You're not going to see it very much. Yeah. Anyway, the cable comes off of that bracket. It goes up there and it sits through a little eyelet. So you just kind of take the cable, flip it around, push it through. This is what the end of the cable looks like. So it sits in like a little holder. But yeah, that's what killed my cable, was this little rubber grommet coming off. This is a 2022, but it's been underwater most of its life. So cable failing, not too surprising, I guess. I can't get too mad about it. But yeah, so that was easier than expected. I'm sure hooking this up is going to be a bitch. This shifter mechanism is very complicated. There's a lot of linkages going on and stuff. I don't love how it combines everything. It does work good. It works better than the 2021 and older. But I really wish Honda would just give you 3 levers. One for the rear diff, one for four-wheel drive, one for the front diff. That would be the coolest thing ever. I moved some more shit out of the way, and yes, my little thing is broken off. But you can see that when you move the shifter, you're moving that bottom gate when you go from turf to two-wheel drive, which is rear diff lock. That bottom gate can be seen on the other side if you move the wire harness a little bit. So I put the wire harness down some so you can hopefully see what I'm on about. I try to teach people stuff, not just show them how to fix it. So you move that gate right there. That is what pulls the cable. The piece that's in focus now, that hole is where the cable goes. So the cable comes in from the other side of that. There's a slot in it. And that's the mechanism that does your rear diff. Like I said, kind of clunky because it's all combined. And it works great until you start dunking it in the mud. Eventually, I would really like to separate this out and have one lever for each of the 3 things. I don't know if I'm going to mess with that now. There really isn't a lot of dash space for it. And this thing does work as long as the cables don't get all jacked up. The reason that this piece right here broke off is because I was fighting with it. We're having a really hard time getting it in gear, and I was about 12 bush lights deep and I ended up breaking it. but that's because the cable is going bad. So let's go ahead and install the new cable and see how it works. While I got you here, the only thing I had to undo to snake the cable through was this little clip right here. Everything else pretty much was able to slide through. Now I can be in park, and as you can see, the differential is locked. That's normal, right? When you're in park, it locks itself, but not mine. I can be in park, and then I can unlock it and go to turf mode. Differential is unlocked. We have differential action. Very premium. The reason that this is important to me is because I don't like complicated things. And now that the shifter is not hooked up to the four-wheel drive system, I can feel all my gears better because there's not a bunch of extra crap going on with the shifter. This just does the rear diff, this just does the front four-wheel drive, and this just does the front locker. So I have simplified the system. Let me show you how I did it. I believe this is a good mod for people that mud ride or people that just like to know what's going on. There used to be a linkage from here down to here. That linkage has been removed. Don't ask me where it went. It fell down there somewhere. I'll dig it out in a minute. This is a little linkage I was talking about. This goes from your transmission shifter over to your four-wheel drive shifter. It is now deleted. It is now a simpler system. Very well-made little linkage though. Nice boots. Still feels brand new after 3 years of abuse. Because the linkage is removed, I had to fix this end that holds the cable. That's the cable right there. So see that big zip tie? That big zip tie keeps this from moving, and this little zip tie keeps it from sliding down that way. So now the base of the cable is fixed. The only thing that moves is the arm on the front of the cable, which is really hard to see, but you can kind of see it up there behind these two wires. That's the arm right there. So the system has now been simplified, and I think it's going to work great for me. New cable feels good. It's going to shift nice. I have all my modes. The best thing about the Pioneer 1000 is that it has a rear locker, a front locker, four-wheel drive, no electronics, all cable actuated, and it works great. I've got 3 years out of that cable before it locked up. But yeah, if you don't want to do any of this, you could totally delete the cable that goes to the rear diff. So if you want to make it real simple and delete that whole cable, just put a zip tie on that arm of the differential, holding it towards the rear of the ATV, like you see there. If it's all the way back, your diff will stay locked at all times. But I like to have it for the reasons mentioned previously. And now we're working on this. So you can see that this tie rod is a little bit bent. The 2022 and up Pioneer tie rods are very good from the factory. I have bent 2 of them now, but that's, you know, what happens when you drink 20 Busch Lights and just start going hard. Nothing to complain about there, really. All right, just a little plug for my new wheel spacers, by the way. These are the Tarachi 35mm spacers I designed. They're a pretty basic wheel spacer. We just made them with really good tolerances, perfect lug pattern for the Hondas. And the holes are big enough to put a 19mm half-inch socket in there. So they're really nice to install. Most people don't realize it, but most side-by-sides are narrower in the rear than the front. So if you want a square setup, you got to run about a 1.5-inch spacer on the rear of most side-by-sides. And of course, they're anodized black, which looks really nice. They don't stick out, you know, look really stupid inside your wheel. Yeah, we've got a whole line of these coming out. They'll be on the website soon.